Organic Chemistry Part 1 NEET Masterclass. Namaste students. Welcome back to Extra Classes. I am Ashima, your chemistry teacher. Today we are starting one of the most important, most scoring, and honestly, most feared sections of NEET chemistry. Organic Chemistry Part 1. And let me tell you something very clearly. If you master these two chapters properly, you can safely secure 12 to 20 marks in NEET from this block alone. Yes, from just two chapters. Today we will cover Chapter 1, Haloalkanes and Halorenes, and Chapter 2, Alcohols, Phenols and Ethers. You can skip directly to Chapter 2 from the associated timelines in the video, or look for the guidance in the video description. And I promise you, by the end of this session, Organic Chemistry Part 1 will look logical, structured, and manageable. So take a notebook, draw reaction arrows with me, and let's begin. Chapter 1, Haloalkanes and Halorenes. Students, before we move into reactions and mechanisms, we must first clearly understand what haloalkanes and halorenes actually are. If your foundation here is strong, everything else becomes logical and easy. Let us begin slowly and clearly. When one or more hydrogen atoms of a hydrocarbon are replaced by a halogen atom, such as fluorine, chlorine, bromine, or iodine, the compound formed is called a halogen derivative or an organohalogen compound. Now, depending on where that halogen is attached, we classify these compounds into two major categories, haloalkanes and halorenes. Let us understand them one by one. Section 1. What are haloalkanes? First, let us talk about haloalkanes. Haloalkanes are organic compounds in which a halogen atom is attached to an sp3 hybridized carbon atom of an alkyl group. Now, what does that mean in simple words? It means the halogen is attached to a carbon that is part of an alkene chain, and that carbon is tetrahedral in geometry. For example, take methane, CH4. If we replace one hydrogen atom with chlorine, we get CH3Cl, which is called chloromethane. This is a haloalkane. Similarly, if we take ethane, CH3, and replace one hydrogen with bromine, we get CH3, which is bromoethane. Again, this is a haloalkane. In all these cases, notice something very important. The carbon to which the halogen is attached is sp3 hybridized. It has 4 single bonds arranged in a tetrahedral geometry. Now, haloalkanes can be further classified based on the type of carbon attached to the halogen. If the halogen is attached to a primary carbon, meaning that carbon is attached to only one other carbon, we call it a primary haloalkane. If it is attached to a secondary carbon, meaning the carbon is connected to 2 other carbons, it is called a secondary haloalkane. And if it is attached to a tertiary carbon, meaning that carbon is bonded to 3 other carbons, then we call it a tertiary haloalkane. For example, 1-chloropropane is a primary haloalkane. 2-chloropropane is a secondary haloalkane. And 2-chloro-2-methylpropane is a tertiary haloalkane. This classification is extremely important because the type of haloalkane determines how it reacts in substitution and elimination reactions. So whenever you see a haloalkane, the first question you should ask yourself is it primary, secondary, or tertiary? Because that will decide the mechanism. Section 2. What are halorenes? Now let us move to halorenes. Halorenes are organic compounds in which the halogen atom is directly attached to an sp superscript 2 hybridized carbon atom of an aromatic ring, usually a benzene ring. Let me repeat that carefully. In halogenes, the halogen is not attached to an alkyl carbon. Instead, it is directly bonded to a carbon of the benzene ring. For example, chlorobenzene is a halorene. In chlorobenzene, chlorine is attached directly to the benzene ring. Similarly, bromobenzene is another example. Now, why is this distinction important? Because the carbon atom in benzene is sp2, hybridized, not sp3. That means the geometry is trigonal planar, and more importantly, the halogen can interact with the aromatic ring through resonance. In halogenes, the lone pair of electrons on the halogen can overlap with the pi-electron system of benzene. This creates resonance structures and gives partial double bond character to the carbon-halogen bond. Because of this partial double bond character, the C-X bond in halogenes becomes shorter, stronger, and more difficult to break. This is the reason halogenes behave very differently from haloalkanes in chemical reactions. For example, haloalkanes readily undergo nucleophilic substitution reactions. But halogenes generally do not undergo nucleophilic substitution under normal conditions. So even though both contain halogens, their behavior is completely different. And this difference arises only because of hybridization and resonance. Section 3: Comparison between haloalkanes and halogenes. Now let us compare haloalkanes and halogenes clearly, because NEET loves conceptual comparison questions. First difference is hybridization. In haloalkanes, the carbon attached to halogen is sp3 hybridized and tetrahedral in shape. In halogenes, the carbon attached to halogen is sp2 hybridized and trigonal planar. Second difference is resonance. In haloalkanes, there is no resonance involving the carbon-halogen bond. In halogenes, the lone pair on halogen participates in resonance with the aromatic ring. In halogenes, the lone pair on halogen participates in resonance with the aromatic ring. Third difference is bond character. In haloalkanes, the carbon-halogen bond is a normal single bond. In halogenes, due to resonance, the carbon-halogen bond has partial double bond character. Fourth difference is reactivity. Haloalkanes easily undergo nucleophilic substitution reactions such as SN1 and SN2. Halogenes are resistant to nucleophilic substitution because the bond is stronger and stabilized by resonance. And finally, structural flexibility. Haloalkanes are flexible, open-chain structures. Halogenes are rigid due to the benzene ring. So students, when you see a compound, do not just see a halogen. Look at where it is attached. That determines everything. Is it attached to an sp3 carbon? Then think like a haloalkane. Is it attached to a benzene ring? Then think like a halorene. This one distinction will save you from many conceptual mistakes in NEET. Now that we clearly understand what haloalkanes and halogenes are, and how they differ structurally and electronically, we are ready to study their chemical behavior. And remember, in organic chemistry, structure decides reactivity. So if you understand structure deeply, reactions become predictable. Good luck and stay focused. Students, now let us carefully understand one of the most important foundational concepts in this chapter, the nature of the carbon-halogen bond, or what we call the C-X bond. If you truly understand this section, half of the reactions in this chapter will become logical rather than memorized. So let us begin slowly. First, remember that halogens, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine, are more electronegative than carbon. Electronegativity simply means the ability of an atom to attract electrons towards itself. Since halogens are more electronegative than carbon, the carbon-halogen bond becomes polar. What does that mean? It means the shared pair of electrons between carbon and halogen is pulled more strongly toward the halogen atom. As a result, the halogen atom develops a partial negative charge, which we denote as delta negative, and the carbon atom develops a partial positive charge, which we denote as delta positive. So in a CX bond, carbon behaves like an electrophilic center, and halogen behaves like a nucleophilic center. This polarity of the bond is extremely important because it explains why nucleophiles attack the carbon atom in substitution reactions. The carbon atom is slightly positive, so it attracts electron-rich species. Now let us move to the next important idea, bond length. As we move down the halogen group from fluorine to iodine, the size of the halogen atom increases. Fluorine is the smallest halogen. Iodine is the largest. As the size of the halogen increases, the distance between carbon and halogen also increases. Therefore, the CX bond length increases in the order. CF is the shortest, then CCl, then CBr, and CI is the longest. Now let us connect this to bond strength. Generally, shorter bonds are stronger bonds. Longer bonds are weaker bonds. Since CF bond is shortest, it is also the strongest. Since CI bond is longest, it is the weakest. This directly explains the reactivity trend in substitution reactions. Alkyl iodides react fastest because the CI bond is weak and easy to break. Alkyl fluorides react slowest because the CF bond is very strong and difficult to break. Many students make a conceptual mistake here. They think that since fluorine is most electronegative, alkyl fluorides must be most reactive. That is incorrect. Electronegativity does not directly decide bond breaking ability. Bond strength does. So always remember, reactivity in substitution reactions follows bond strength, not just electronegativity. Now let us talk about bond enthalpy. Bond enthalpy is the amount of energy required to break a bond. Since CF bond is strongest, it has the highest bond enthalpy. Since Ci bond is weakest, it has the lowest bond enthalpy. So the bond enthalpy decreases as we move down the group. This is directly correlated with increasing reactivity. Now let us move to dipole moment. Although halogens are electronegative, the dipole moment depends not only on electronegativity but also on bond length. For example, even though fluorine is highly electronegative, the CF bond is short, which affects dipole magnitude. So dipole moment does not always follow simple electronegativity order. This is another subtle conceptual area that NEET may test indirectly. Now let us compare haloalkanes and halorenes from the perspective of the CX bond. In haloalkanes, the carbon-halogen bond is a normal single sigma bond between an sp superscript 3 carbon and a halogen. But in halorenes, something interesting happens. In halorenes like chlorobenzene, the lone pair of electrons on the halogen overlaps with the pi-electron cloud of the benzene ring. This overlap leads to resonance. Because of this resonance, the CX bond in halorenes acquires partial double bond character. What does partial double bond character mean? It means the bond is shorter and stronger than a normal CCl single bond. And because it is stronger, it is more difficult to break. This is exactly why halorenes do not easily undergo nucleophilic substitution reactions, whereas haloalkanes do. So the difference in nature of the CX bond directly explains the difference in reactivity between haloalkanes and halorenes. Now let us summarize this entire concept in one logical chain. Halogens are more electronegative than carbon, so the CX bond is polar. The carbon atom becomes partially positive and is susceptible to nucleophilic attack. As halogen size increases, bond length increases and bond strength decreases. Therefore, reactivity in substitution reactions increases from alkyl fluoride to alkyl iodide. In halogenes, resonance strengthens the bond, making it resistant to substitution. Students, this is not just theory. This is the backbone of the entire chapter. If you understand polarity, bond length, bond strength, and resonance, you can predict reaction trends confidently. Organic chemistry becomes logical when you connect structure to reactivity. And the nature of the CX bond is one of the most beautiful examples of that connection. Students, now let us move to one of the most important portions of this chapter, the preparation of alcohols. This topic is extremely high yield for NEET because it connects multiple chapters together. You will see concepts from alkenes, carbonyl compounds, and even carboxylic acids being linked here. So instead of memorizing reactions separately, I want you to understand the logic behind each method. Let us begin. First, alcohols can be prepared from alkenes. This is one of the most frequently tested methods in NEET. When an alkene reacts with water in the presence of an acid catalyst, such as dilute sulfuric acid, hydration occurs and an alcohol is formed. Now here comes the important part. If the alkene is unsymmetrical, the addition of water follows Markovnikov's rule. What does that mean? It means the hydrogen atom attaches to the carbon that already has more hydrogens, and the hydroxyl group attaches to the more substituted carbon. Why does this happen? Because during the reaction, a carbocation intermediate is formed. And carbocations follow stability order. Tertiary is more stable than secondary, and secondary is more stable than primary. So the reaction pathway that forms the more stable carbocation is preferred. This is why Markovnikov's rule works. Now let me ask you something important. Does hydration always follow Markovnikov's rule? No. There is another method called hydroboration oxidation. In this reaction, the alkene reacts with borane, and then hydrogen peroxide is added in alkaline medium. Here, the O group attaches to the less substituted carbon. This is called anti-Markovnikov addition. Now why does this happen? Because this reaction does not proceed through a carbocation intermediate. Instead, it proceeds through a concerted mechanism where boron attaches to the less substituted carbon due to steric and electronic factors. So students, NEET loves asking product prediction from these two reactions. You must be able to look at an alkene and immediately tell whether the product will be Markovnikov or anti-Markovnikov based on the reagent. If acid is present, think Markovnikov. If hydroboration oxidation is used, think anti-Markovnikov. Now let us move to another extremely important method. Alcohols can also be prepared by reducing aldehydes and ketones. This is a direct link between the carbonyl chapter and alcohol chapter. When an aldehyde is reduced, it forms a primary alcohol. When a ketone is reduced, it forms a secondary alcohol. Why? Because aldehydes have one alkyl group and one hydrogen attached to the carbonyl carbon. So when reduction adds hydrogen, it becomes a primary alcohol. Ketones already have two alkyl groups, so after reduction, they form secondary alcohols. Now what reagents are used? Common reagents include sodium borohydride, NaBH4, and lithium aluminium hydride, LiAlH4. Hydrogen gas in presence of metal catalysts like nickel can also be used. For NEET, you must remember this transformation clearly. Aldehyde gives primary alcohol. Ketone gives secondary alcohol. And do not make the mistake of thinking ketones give tertiary alcohols in normal reduction. They do not. Now here is another important extension. Carboxylic acids and esters can also be reduced to alcohols using strong reducing agents like LiALH4. Carboxylic acids give primary alcohols. Esters give two alcohol molecules, one from the acyl part and one from the alkoxy part. NEET sometimes tests this transformation in multi-step questions. Now let us connect this with the haloalkane chapter. Alcohols can be prepared from alkyl halides by nucleophilic substitution. When an alkyl halide reacts with aqueous potassium hydroxide or aqueous sodium hydroxide, the halogen is replaced by hydroxyl group. This is a classic nucleophilic substitution reaction. The hydroxide ion acts as a nucleophile and attacks the partially positive carbon atom. The halide leaves and alcohol is formed. Now remember something important here. If the alkyl halide is primary, the reaction follows SN2 mechanism. If it is tertiary, it follows SN1 mechanism. So you see how chapters are interconnected? Preparation of alcohols from alkyl halides depends on the mechanism you learned earlier. Now let us talk about one of the most powerful methods, formation of alcohols using Grignard reagents. When a Grignard reagent reacts with formaldehyde and then is hydrolyzed, a primary alcohol is formed. When it reacts with other aldehydes, a secondary alcohol is formed. When it reacts with ketones, a tertiary alcohol is formed. So this is the only common method where tertiary alcohols can be synthesized directly from carbonyl compounds. This is extremely high yield in NEET. You must remember the pattern. Formaldehyde gives primary alcohol. Other aldehydes give secondary alcohol. Ketones give tertiary alcohol. If you remember this pattern, you can solve many multi-step synthesis questions. Students, now let me tell you what NEET focuses on from preparation of alcohols. NEET does not ask you to memorize every reaction blindly. Instead, it tests product prediction, Markovnikov versus anti-Markovnikov, aldehyde versus ketone reduction, Grignard reagent outcomes, primary versus secondary versus tertiary alcohol formation. Most questions are concept-based, not memory-based. So whenever you see a reaction, ask yourself, what is the starting functional group? What intermediate is formed? What is the stability of that intermediate? Organic chemistry becomes easy when you think like this. Let me warn you about common mistakes. Do not confuse hydroboration with peroxide effect in alkyl halides. These are different reactions. Do not assume every alkene hydration gives Markovnikov product. Check the reagent. Do not assume every alkene hydration gives Markovnikov product. Check the reagent. Do not think ketones reduce to tertiary alcohols under simple reduction. Do not forget that carboxylic acids require strong reducing agents. And finally, do not memorize reactions without understanding the mechanism. Students, now we are entering the most important concept of the entire haloalkanes chapter, SN1 and SN2 reactions. If you understand this deeply, you will solve almost every substitution question in NEET confidently. So please listen carefully, because this is not something to memorize. This is something to understand. The term SN stands for substitution nucleophilic. Substitution means one group is replaced by another. Substitution means one group is replaced by another. Nucleophilic means the attacking species is a nucleophile, that is, a species rich in electrons. In haloalkanes, the halogen is attached to a carbon atom that has partial positive charge because the CX bond is polar. That carbon becomes susceptible to nucleophilic attack. Now the difference between SN1 and SN2 lies in how this substitution happens. Let us begin with SN2. The 2 in SN2 means bimolecular. That means two species are involved in the rate-determining step, the alkyl halide and the nucleophile. Now how does SN2 occur? In SN2 reaction, the nucleophile attacks the carbon atom directly from the backside. At the same time when the halogen leaves. This happens in a single step. There is no intermediate. There is only one transition state. So bond formation and bond breaking happen simultaneously. Now because the nucleophile attacks from the backside, the geometry around the carbon atom flips. This flipping is called inversion of configuration. It is sometimes called Waldane inversion. So if the carbon was chiral, the configuration changes. This is extremely important for NET. If you see a chiral haloalkane undergoing SN2, expect inversion. SN2 is favored when the carbon is less crowded. That means primary haloalkanes react fastest. Why? Because the nucleophile needs space to attack from the backside. If the carbon is surrounded by bulky alkyl groups, the nucleophile cannot approach easily. So steric hindrance plays a major role here. Reactivity order in SN2, primary greater than secondary much greater than tertiary. In fact, tertiary haloalkanes almost never undergo SN2 because steric hindrance blocks backside attack. So always remember, SN2 likes less crowding. SN2 reactions are favored by strong nucleophiles. Examples include OH-, CN-, I-, etc. Also, SN2 prefers polar aprotic solvents like acetone, DMSO, or DMF. Why? Because polar aprotic solvents do not strongly solvate the nucleophile. So the nucleophile remains free and reactive. If you remember these conditions, you will avoid many traps. Now let us move to SN1. The 1 in SN1 means unimolecular. That means only one species, the alkyl halide, is involved in the rate-determining step. Now what happens here? Step 1. The halogen leaves first. It forms a carbocation. This step is slow and determines the reaction rate. Step 2. The nucleophile attacks the carbocation. This step is fast. So SN1 involves formation of a carbocation intermediate. Now here is the key concept. Carbocation stability determines SN1 reactivity. Tertiary carbocation is most stable. Secondary is less stable. Primary is very unstable. So SN1 reactivity order is tertiary greater than secondary much greater than primary. So SN1 prefers more substituted carbons. Now what about stereochemistry? In SN1, a carbocation is formed. Carbocation is planar. So nucleophile can attack from either side. As a result, we get racemization. That means a mixture of inversion and retention products. NET often asks this conceptual question. SN1 reactions are favored by polar protic solvents such as water or alcohol. Why? Because these solvents stabilize the carbocation intermediate. They also stabilize the leaving halide ion. So solvent plays a major role in deciding mechanism. Now let us compare them clearly. In SN2, reaction occurs in one step. In SN1, reaction occurs in two steps. In SN2, no intermediate is formed. In SN1, carbocation intermediate is formed. In SN2, inversion of configuration occurs. In SN1, racemization occurs. SN2 prefers primary haloalkanes. SN1 prefers tertiary haloalkanes. SN2 is sensitive to steric hindrance. SN1 depends on carbocation stability. If you remember these 5 differences clearly, you can solve 90% of substitution questions. Now let me warn you about common mistakes. First trap, assuming tertiary haloalkanes undergo SN2. They do not. Second trap, assuming primary haloalkanes undergo SN1. They usually do not because primary carbocations are unstable. Third trap, ignoring solvent. If solvent is polar protic, think SN1. If polar aprotic, think SN2. Fourth trap, ignoring stereochemistry. If question mentions chiral carbon, check mechanism. And finally, do not just look at substrate. Also look at nucleophile strength. When NEET gives a substitution reaction, ask yourself 4 questions. What is the type of carbon? Primary, secondary, or tertiary? Is the nucleophile strong or weak? What type of solvent is used? Is stereochemistry involved? Answer these 4 questions and mechanism becomes obvious. Students, now that we have clearly understood substitution reactions, let us move to another extremely important concept, elimination reactions. In many NEET questions, you will not just see substitution. You will see competition between substitution and elimination. So if you do not understand elimination properly, you will choose the wrong product. Let us begin slowly and logically. In an elimination reaction, 2 atoms or groups are removed from adjacent carbon atoms, and as a result, a double bond is formed. In simple words, elimination converts an alkyl halide into an alkene. Usually, a hydrogen atom is removed from one carbon, and a halogen is removed from the adjacent carbon. Because 2 groups are eliminated, a double bond forms between those 2 carbons. Now elimination reactions are of 2 main types, E1 and E2. Just like substitution had SN1 and SN2, elimination has E1 and E2. And just like before, the number tells us about the molecularity of the rate determining step. Let us first understand E2. The 2 in E2 means bimolecular. That means 2 species are involved in the rate determining step, the alkyl halide and the base. In E2 reaction, elimination happens in one single step. The base removes a hydrogen from the beta carbon, while at the same time the halogen leaves from the alpha carbon. Both bond breaking and bond forming happen simultaneously. There is no intermediate. Now this simultaneous removal is very important. The hydrogen being removed and the halogen leaving must be positioned opposite to each other in space. This is called antiperiplanar arrangement. This geometric requirement is crucial for E2 reaction. NEET sometimes tests this concept indirectly in stereochemistry questions. E2 is favored when a strong base is present. Examples include potassium hydroxide in alcoholic medium, sodium ethoxide, or other strong bases. Alcoholic KOH is a classic condition for elimination. If you see alcoholic KOH and heat, immediately think elimination. Now, what type of substrate favors E2? Tertiary haloalkanes favor elimination because formation of alkene is more stable. However, E2 can occur with primary and secondary haloalkanes also if a strong base is used. So E2 depends strongly on base strength. Now let us talk about something extremely important, Zaitsev's rule. When elimination can produce more than one alkene, the more substituted alkene is the major product. Why? Because more substituted alkenes are more stable. More alkyl groups attached to double bond means more hyperconjugation and greater stability. So during elimination, the product that is more substituted is usually favored. For example, if elimination can produce both 1-butene and 2-butene, 2-butene will be major product because it is more substituted. This is called Zaitsev product. NEET very frequently asks major product prediction based on this rule. Now be careful. Zaitsev's rule applies when the base is small and strong. If a bulky base like tert-butoxide is used, sometimes the less substituted alkene becomes major product. This is called Hofmann product. Although NEET does not always go very deep into this, you must be aware of it conceptually. Now let us move to E1 reaction. The 1 in E1 means unimolecular. That means only the alkyl halide is involved in the rate-determining step. Step 1, the halogen leaves first, forming a carbocation. This step is slow. Step 2, the base removes a proton from the adjacent carbon and a double bond forms. So E1 involves carbocation intermediate. Now think carefully. Which substrates form stable carbocations? Tertiary carbocations are most stable. So tertiary haloalkanes favor E1 reaction. Primary haloalkanes do not favor E1 because primary carbocations are unstable. E1 is favored in polar protic solvents like alcohol or water. It is also favored when weak bases are present. E1 often competes with SN1 because both involve carbocation intermediate. In fact, SN1 and E1 often occur together. So when you see tertiary haloalkane in polar protic solvent with weak base, both substitution and elimination may occur. Now let us compare E1 and E2 clearly. In E2, elimination happens in one step. In E1, elimination happens in two steps. E2 does not form carbocation. E1 forms carbocation. E2 depends on strong base. E1 depends on carbocation stability. E2 can occur with primary, secondary, and tertiary substrates if base is strong. E1 mainly occurs with tertiary substrates. E2 requires antiperiplanar geometry. E1 does not have this requirement because carbocation is planar. If you remember these differences, you can easily identify the mechanism in NEET. Now this is where NEET becomes tricky. Often a question will give you conditions and ask whether substitution or elimination will occur. So how do you decide? If strong base and heat are present, elimination is favored. If nucleophile is strong but not bulky and temperature is lower, substitution may dominate. Heat generally favors elimination. Because elimination produces more molecules and increases entropy. So if temperature is high, think elimination. If substrate is tertiary and weak nucleophile is present, SN1, and first may compete. So always check three things: substrate type, base or nucleophile strength, temperature. Students, let me warn you about common mistakes. First trap, ignoring Zaitsev's rule. Second trap, assuming elimination always gives only one product. Often multiple alkenes are possible. Third trap, forgetting that E1 forms carbocation and may undergo rearrangement. Yes, rearrangement can occur in E1 because carbocation is formed. So always check possibility of hydride or methyl shift. Fourth trap, not checking reaction medium. Alcoholic KOH means elimination. Aqueous KOH means substitution. This difference is frequently tested. Study these mechanisms well, and you will score high in organic chemistry. Good luck! Students, now we are going to discuss one of the most important conceptual questions from this chapter. Why are halogenes less reactive towards nucleophilic substitution reactions compared to haloalkanes? This question has been asked directly and indirectly multiple times in NEET. So if you understand this clearly, you will never get confused. Let us first remind ourselves of the structural difference. In haloalkanes, the halogen is attached to an sp3 hybridized carbon atom. In halogenes, the halogen is attached directly to an sp2 hybridized carbon atom of a benzene ring. This small difference in hybridization changes everything. Organic chemistry is beautiful because structure controls reactivity. Now here comes the most important concept, resonance. In halogenes, such as chlorobenzene, the halogen atom has lone pairs of electrons. These lone pairs can overlap with the pi-electron cloud of the benzene ring. When this overlap happens, resonance structures are formed. In these resonance structures, the lone pair of the halogen participates in delocalization. As a result, the carbon-halogen bond acquires partial double bond character. Now what does partial double bond character mean? It means that the bond between carbon and halogen is no longer a pure single bond. It behaves partly like a double bond. And double bonds are stronger than single bonds. Therefore, the CX bond in halogenes becomes shorter and stronger compared to normal alkyl halides. This is the first and most important reason for their low reactivity. Since the CX bond in halogenes has partial double bond character, it is difficult to break. In nucleophilic substitution reactions, the first requirement is that the leaving group must leave. But if the bond is strong, breaking it becomes difficult. So even though halogen is generally a good leaving group, in halogenes it is tightly held by the benzene ring due to resonance stabilization. Therefore, substitution becomes difficult. Now let us analyze SN1 mechanism. SN1 requires formation of a carbocation intermediate. In haloalkanes, tertiary carbocations can form easily because they are stabilized by hyperconjugation and inductive effects. But what happens if we try to form a carbocation from chlorobenzene? If the halogen leaves, a phenyl carbocation would form. Now think carefully. That carbon is part of an aromatic ring. If it becomes positively charged, the aromaticity of benzene is destroyed. And we know that aromaticity provides enormous stability. Destroying aromaticity is highly unfavorable. So formation of phenyl carbocation is extremely unstable. Therefore, SN1 mechanism does not occur in halogenes. Now let us think about SN2. SN2 requires backside attack by the nucleophile. But in halogenes, the carbon attached to halogen is sp2 hybridase and part of a planar benzene ring. Backside attack becomes geometrically difficult. The pi-electron cloud of the benzene ring blocks the approach of the nucleophile. Moreover, the partial double bond character makes the carbon-halogen bond rigid and resistant to attack. So, SN2 mechanism also does not occur easily in halogenes. That means both SN1 and SN2 mechanisms are unfavorable. Now let us compare logically. In haloalkanes, the carbon-halogen bond is a normal single bond. No resonance stabilization. Carbocations can form in tertiary cases. Backside attack is geometrically possible. So substitution occurs easily. But in halogenes, the carbon-halogen bond has a partial double bond character. Bond is shorter and stronger. Carbocation formation is unstable. Backside attack is sterically and electronically hindered. Therefore, halogenes are resistant to nucleophilic substitution. Now I want to warn you about a very common NEET trap. Do not confuse halogenes with benzylic halides. In benzylic halides, the halogen is attached to an sp3 carbon that is next to the benzene ring. For example, benzyl chloride. Substitution occurs very easily. Because the carbocation form is resonance stabilized by the benzene ring. So benzylic halides are highly reactive. But halogenes, where halogen is directly attached to the ring, are unreactive. If you mix up these two, you will lose marks. Students, now that we clearly understand what haloalkanes and halogenes are, let us talk about something very important for NEET. Not everything from the chapter is equally important. NEET is conceptual, but it is also predictable. So let me tell you the exact high-yield conceptual areas from the introduction itself, and the traps where students usually lose marks. One of the most important and repeatedly tested ideas in NEET is the difference in hybridization. In haloalkanes, the halogen is attached to an sp3 hybridase carbon. In halogenes, the halogen is attached to an sp2 hybridase carbon of a benzene ring. Now why does NEET love this? Because hybridization changes bond strength, geometry, and reactivity. Students often memorize reactions but forget this structural difference. NEET may not directly ask you, what is a haloalkane? Instead, they may give you chlorobenzene and ask why it does not react easily. This is one of the biggest traps. Many students assume that since both haloalkanes and halogenes contain halogen, they must react in the same way. That is completely wrong. Haloalkanes undergo SN1 and SN2 reactions easily. Halogenes generally do not. Why? Because in halogenes, the lone pair of halogen participates in resonance with the benzene ring. This gives partial double bond character to the CX bond. And that makes the bond shorter and stronger. If you forget this, you will definitely lose marks. NEET frequently asks conceptual questions like, why is chlorobenzene less reactive towards nucleophilic substitution than methyl chloride? The answer is resonance. In halogenes, the lone pair on halogen overlaps with the pi-electron system of benzene. This gives partial double bond character. And because of that, the bond becomes difficult to break. Students who only memorize reaction mechanisms but ignore resonance will get confused here. So always connect structure with reactivity. Now this is a very common and dangerous trap. Students often confuse benzylic halides with halogenes. Let me clarify. In benzylic halides, the halogen is attached to an sp superscript 3 carbon that is next to a benzene ring. For example, benzyl chloride. It is not attached directly to the benzene ring. It is attached to a carbon adjacent to the ring. That carbon is sp3 hybridized. Therefore, benzylic halides behave like haloalkanes in substitution reactions. In fact, they are even more reactive because the carbocation formed is resonance stabilized. But in halogenes like chlorobenzene, the halogen is directly attached to the ring. That is completely different. So remember, benzylic halide is reactive. Halorine is resistant. If you confuse these two, NEET will trap you easily. Another favorite NEET concept is the trend in bond strength. As we go from CF to CI, bond length increases. Bond enthalpy decreases. Reactivity increases. So alkyl iodides are most reactive in substitution. Students often think fluorine compounds are most reactive because fluorine is most electronegative. But actually, CF bond is the strongest. So alkyl fluorides are least reactive in substitution. This is a very common conceptual trap. Electronegativity does not always mean more reactive. Yes, fluorine is highly electronegative. But CF bond is very strong. So it is hard to break. Therefore, alkyl fluorides react slowly in substitution reactions. NEET sometimes tests this indirectly. NEET often gives a structure and asks which reacts fastest. If it is a haloalkane, check whether it is primary, secondary, or tertiary. Tertiary haloalkanes undergo SN1 reactions easily because tertiary carbocation is stable. Primary haloalkanes undergo SN2 reactions. So always classify before predicting mechanism. Many students directly jump to answer without classifying. That leads to mistakes. In SN2 reactions, steric hindrance matters. Tertiary haloalkanes do not undergo SN2 easily because backside attack is blocked. Students sometimes forget this and assume all substitution is similar. Always check steric crowding. Another subtle but important concept is understanding the difference between inductive effect and resonance. Halogens show I effect due to high electronegativity. But in halogenes, they also show plus R effect because their lone pair participates in resonance. This dual nature confuses many students. In electrophilic substitution on benzene, halogens are deactivating due to I effect. But they are orthopara directing due to resonance. NEET frequently asks this. Students, for the introduction section of haloalkanes and halogenes, do not treat it as basic theory. It is actually the foundation of the entire chapter. If you understand hybridization difference, resonance in halogenes, bond strength trends, primary, secondary, tertiary classification, benzylic versus halorine distinction, you will avoid at least 3 to 4 common traps in NEET. Organic chemistry is not about remembering 50 reactions. It is about understanding 5 fundamental principles. Structure decides reactivity. Hybridization decides stability. Resonance decides bond strength. And classification decides the mechanism. If you remember these 4 ideas, this chapter becomes easy. If you have prepared and revised this chapter, log on to Extra Classes platform for the test series for this chapter. Validate if you have studied well and understand the concepts. Good luck! Let us now practice some important previous year questions from this chapter that regularly contributes questions in NEET chemistry. This chapter is important because reactions, naming, order of reactivity, and concepts like SN1, SN2, elimination, and aryl halides are repeatedly tested in NEET. So keep your notebook ready, try solving every question before I reveal the answer, and let's begin. Question 1. Which of the following halides undergoes SN1 reaction fastest? Question 1. While halide reacts the fastest? The options are Option A, CH3Cl, Option B, CH3CH2Cl, Option C, CH3 whole cube CCl, and Option D, CH3 whole cube CH2CH2Cl. Take a few seconds and think carefully. The correct answer is Option C, tert-butyl chloride, CH3, 3CCl. This is because SN1 reactions proceed through carbocation formation, and tertiary carbocations are the most stable. Therefore, tertiary alkyl halides react fastest in SN1 mechanism. Very important concept for NEET. Question 2. Which reagent is used for the preparation of chlorobenzene from benzene? Option A, Cl2FeCl3. Option B, HClZ in Cl2. Option C, SOCl2. Option D, NaCl. Pause the video and try it. The correct answer is Option A, Cl in presence of iron chloride. This is an electrophilic substitution reaction where iron chloride acts as a Lewis acid catalyst. Remember this reaction because direct halogenation of benzene is a favorite NEET question. Question 3. Which of the following compounds will react fastest with alcoholic KOH? Option A, ethyl chloride. Option B, ethyl bromide. Option C, ethyl iodide. Option D, ethyl fluoride. Think about leaving group ability. What do you think? The correct answer is Option C, ethyl iodide. Iodide is the best leaving group among halogens because the C-I bond is weakest. Therefore, elimination or substitution reactions occur fastest with alkyl iodides. A very commonly repeated concept in PYQs. Question 4. Why are halorenes less reactive towards nucleophilic substitution reactions? Option A, presence of resonance. Option B, presence of polar bond. Option C, presence of weak CX bond. Option D, presence of sp superscript 3 carbon. The correct answer is Option A, presence of resonance. In halorenes, the lone pair on halogen participates in resonance with the benzene ring. In halorenes, the lone pair on halogen participates in resonance with the benzene ring, giving partial double bond character to the carbon-halogen bond. This makes the bond shorter and stronger. That is why chlorobenzene is much less reactive than alkyl halides. Extremely important theoretical question. Question 5. What is the major product formed when chlorobenzene reacts with sodium metal in presence of dry ether? Option A, benzene. Option B, diphenyl. Option C, toluene. Option D, phenol. Try recalling named reactions. Take a moment. The correct answer is Option B, diphenyl. This reaction is called the Fittig reaction, where aryl halides combine in presence of sodium metal and dry ether to form biryl compounds. You must remember named reactions from this chapter for NEET. Question 6. Which of the following gives white precipitate immediately with alcoholic AgNO? Option A, CHF. Option B, CHCl. Option C, CHBr. Option D, CHI. The correct answer is option D, CHI. Silver iodide precipitates fastest because iodide ion is released most easily due to the weak Si bond. This trend is extremely important. Ri greater than Rbr greater than Rcl greater than Rf. Question 7. The reaction of propene with HBr in presence of peroxide gives. Option A, 1-bromopropane. Option B, 2-bromopropane. Option C, propanol. Option D, bromobenzene. Pause and answer this. Give it a try. The correct answer is option A, 1-bromopropane. In presence of peroxide, HBr follows anti-Markovnikov addition, also called the peroxide effect or Kharash effect. Remember, peroxide effect is shown only by HBr, not HCl or high. Very important NEET point. So students, these were some very important PYQs and concepts from halolcanes and halorenes. Chapter-wise PYQs, difficulty-wise MCQs, full mock tests, rank analysis, error tracking, AI-powered performance insights. Then register now on extra classes. At extra classes, you can practice hundreds of NEET level chemistry questions designed exactly according to the latest NEET pattern. Keep practicing, keep revising, and I'll see you in the next revision session. See you in the next part of organic chemistry with the chapter Alcohols, Phenols and Ethers.